Hello, everyone, and good evening. My name is Dr. Parker Rugeley. I'm the president of the Alumni Association for Cal State East Bay. Good evening, pioneers, and welcome to Beyond the Bay. I'm so glad you've tuned in tonight for what promises to be an inspiring program. One of the things that makes Cal State East Bay so special is the way our alumni carry their pioneer spirit far beyond the campus, shaping industries, building stronger communities, and leading with creativity, resilience, and heart. Tonight, you'll hear from five remarkable alumni whose journeys reflect just that. Each of our speakers brings a unique lens from technology and social justice to reinvention, grassroots activism, and the courage to start again. Their stories are not just about professional success, they're about purpose, impact, and possibility. And as you listen, I invite you to consider how their lessons might resonate in your own life, wherever you are in your journey. On behalf of the Alumni Association, thank you for joining us and staying connected to this powerful community of over 150,000 pioneers worldwide. Together, we continue to prove that what starts here at Cal State East Bay truly does reach beyond the Bay. With that, I would like to introduce our first speaker. Our first speaker is Unmesh Shirawanshi, head of he is our proud board member of our alumni board. With expertise spanning AI, cybersecurity, digital media, and emerging technologies, Unmesh brings both innovation and vision to everything he does. Tonight, he reflects on his journey from CSU East Bay to global tech leadership and how persistence, small steps, and bold ideas can ripple outward to create real change. Please welcome our first speaker and our board member, Unmesh, as he comes into the room.
Thank you, Dr. P. Good evening, everyone. It's truly an honor to be here with all of you, my fellow pioneers. When I say that word pioneers, I feel it very deeply because each of us has lived a journey of exploration, uncertainty, and definitely a discovery. Before I begin, I wanted to be very clear about something. What I'm going to share with you today is not about a set of lessons or a polished message. It's a personal story of mine, a story of hope, ups and down, and of course, a failure and a breakthrough. Because most of the time, when we hear from alumni or from professional talks, we hear the success story, we hear the success part. But today, I wanted to share the struggle part too, the part that were uncertain, uncomfortable, risky, and most importantly, it was even invisible. The reason is very simple, guys. Uh, Life is never a straight line. Sometimes we feel like it's too late or we feel stuck. Sometimes we ever wonder whether it will work out or not, right? But the truth is, there is always something that new is coming. With it, it's kind of like new challenges, new chaos, new hope, but of course, with a big risk. So today, my goal is not to give you any kind of like answer. My goal is just to share my journey, and maybe because through my story, you will see a reflection of your own. Um, so I came to the States around like 10 years back, and like any international students, I came with a purpose to study, to grow, to open new doors for my life. But I carried something else, and the big word is uncertainty. I didn't know what my path would be. I didn't know how many obstacles I would face, and I certainly didn't know how many times I would stumble. I still remember the good old days at the university library, not because I work there or because it has a beautiful view, but it grounded me. Some days were heavy, the moments were very invisible in a new country, new states, in a new apartment, and far away from my family, friends, festival, food, and everything that was familiar. But here's the thing. This Cal Cities Bay campus and the university gave me something very powerful. It gave me a space to fail, and it also gave me the space to grow. I still remember like walking up hills from the City Web apartment to the Cal Cities Bay, walking late night, like everyone does, even in the caves of VBT building. I lived like a full pioneer experience, taking 4 classes, joining the first on-campus job in a Concord campus, at the same time attending the class at the Hayward campus, going through like a 2 different shuttle, 2 different BART, spending 5 to 6 hours on a public transport on a daily basis because I didn't have the car, right? I was an interested student. So during that journey, let me be honest, right? During the graduation, the path was not simple. I applied more than 3,000 jobs. This is something that I always shared it through the public speaking. So this story is not about the 3,000 jobs, but it's also about like 3,000 jobs multiplied by like 15 to 20 minutes or even 30 minutes to spend on each and every application, right? Most of the time, the answer was very silence and rejection. Every morning, I would wake up hoping for good news, only to meet another no, to be honest. Day after day, week after week, there was always a rejection. And the journey was brutal, to be frank. Uh, and there was a one point, and it was the depression, and it was the lowest point. And I just told myself, like, I'm done. I'm done with this country. I'm done with this life. And I'm just tired. It's just rejection, rejection, and rejection. This is something that I told to one of my close friends. And that friend just told me something very simple, right? You have a big dream, Unmesh. So you have to work hard. Simple sentence, no sugar coating, no motivational speaking in a fancy way, of course. But I think it just reminded me a very simple purpose, right? Why I came here. It reminded me that size of the your dream also decide the weight of your struggle. So eventually, those thousands of no's converted into few years. And of course, those years shaped my career I have today. Looking back, I realized that consistency and the persistence that I practice at the Cal Cities Bay as a student, as a immigrant, as a job seeker, is the same consistency I bring into the technology and leadership that I work here. um, the leadership is not about having all of the answer, right? It's about uncertainty. It's about taking a big risk, right? It's also about challenging the failure. It's about learning new things, failing a thousand times, and continue to move forward. And here is something that I wanted to share you today. I truly love what I do. I get to work in an industry where my passion and my professions are aligned. Honestly, sometimes I even don't think that I'm working for a company or it's like a 9 to 5 job. It's time to stop, right? I think I find myself like, okay, I need to give my energy to my work culture as well. Maybe it's luck, or maybe it's persistence and consistency, or maybe it's both, right? But this particular alignment where passion meet the perfection, it's what's the word journey word for, right? So working in a technology, I collaborate with a lot of ambitious people, many corporate professional, diverse team members, right? But I realized one thing: uh, this difficult journey I went through, uh, thousands of rejections, every single failure, late night calls, early morning calls with the recruiter. It just made me stronger, to be honest. It shaped me how the challenges were that you can approach. But I should say this, right? At the closing remark, what I want you to take away from my story? Not that I applied for 3,000 jobs and that I struggle and now I got success. I think I just didn't stop. I hope you remember this. Failure is not a part of your journey. I think you should just keep failing, fail enough. Failure will simply become a part of your day to day life. When I started, I told you this, right? This would be my personal story of failure and breakthrough. It's not something about like closing one thought, right? No matter where you are in a journey, it's never too late. And last but not least, we are pioneers, guys. We being a pioneer means we don't stop at the first no. We don't stop at the 100th no. We keep going until we find our yes. So yeah, that's my story. But thank you for listening and thank you for having me here. Thank you so much again, Dr. P.
Thank you, Umesh, for showing us how persistence and boldness can transform uncertainty into purpose. From tech innovation We move now to grassroots activism and the power of organizing communities. Our next speaker knows this work deeply. Shanti Gonzalez is Senior Manager of Candidate Recruitment and Training at the League of Conservation Voters, where she develops programs supporting diverse environmental leaders nationwide. A longtime labor organizer and advocate, she also served 2 terms on the Oakland Unified School Board. Tonight, Shanti shares lessons from 2 decades of grassroots leadership and how activism at every level, from school boards to national organizing, shapes the future. Welcome, Shanti.
Thank you, Parker. Hi, everybody. I'm Shanti Gonzalez. Nice to be here tonight. And thanks for those who are attending. I know you could be doing lots of other things tonight. So I am going to share my slides here. Give me 1 second. All right. Hopefully everyone is seeing that. I don't see my slides. Hopefully you guys are seeing my slides. Well, I guess I should just start while I'm waiting for the slides to show up. Let me try this again, actually. Okay. That is not what I'm trying to share. Okay, well, I guess I'm going without slides. So I wanted to just share some my lessons from my career journey. I started my career when I was 16. I had this amazing opportunity to work on a statewide organizing campaign with Californians for Justice. I grew up in Castro Valley. At that time, Castro Valley was not nearly as diverse as it is now. And I was often, well, I had no teachers who looked anything like me until I got to Cal State East Bay, actually. But when I was 16, I was recruited to work on a statewide organizing campaign. It was a No on Proposition 187 campaign. And that was the first time in my life I saw people who looked like me in any kind of leadership role. And it was super powerful because I didn't realize until that time that there was something you could do if you didn't have power in your community, if you didn't have a real say in what happened in your school, and that was to run for office. I didn't understand the power of electoral politics until that point, and it totally shaped the rest of my career trajectory. And on that campaign, I learned a lot of skills that really have helped me later in my life, learning to make big asks of total strangers, to vote, a certain way, to give money to a cause. So those things have been really helpful in shaping the rest of my career. My first job, I was still at Cal State East Bay when I started working for SEIU United Healthcare Workers. I was a home care worker organizer. And actually, while I was at Cal State East Bay, I got to work on the Pioneer, and I actually got to be the editor of the newspaper for a while. So that was very cool. I won a journalism award, but I think the most powerful part of the experience was the writing skills that I got that have helped me really to this day. And every job I've had, writing has been an important skill. And so I really enjoyed that experience. One of the things that really shaped me, my experience at Cal State East Bay. And I loved organizing workers. The hours were long and there was a lot of travel. But the best part about that job was to see people take risks and do things that they were scared to do, that they didn't think they could do. And then to see that they actually could do things that they were afraid to do, and that they could have more agency in their lives as a result of that, right? Better worker and better wages, better healthcare, better retirement benefits. And these were pretty low income workers. So these were pretty transformational changes for a lot of them. So that was what I realized I really loved, and what I felt like I was put on this earth to do was to help people take those kind of risks to have better lives. So after that, I ended up in philanthropy for a little while. I was at the San Francisco Foundation and then the Women Donors Network. Philanthropy is a really nice place when you are burnt out and you need a break, because nobody's going to get fired if you don't do something. There's no emergencies in philanthropy. So it was kind of a nice break from kind of a really high stress job. And I learned a lot, but I really miss leadership development. And while I was in philanthropy, I decided to run for office. This is another way that Cal State East Bay affected my life after college. because my professors that I was still in touch with are some of the people who helped me find my first campaign staff. If there's any students on here, stay in touch with your faculty. You never know when those relationships might help you later on in your career. And it was really wonderful to feel like I had that kind of support, even many years after I had graduated from Cal State East Bay. Um, I served as Parker said, 8 years on the Oakland School Board. It was both one of the best and one of the worst experiences of my life. I learned so much, and I feel like it really shaped me as a leader more than anything else I could imagine doing. And it was traumatic at times, especially during the pandemic. People don't show up as their best selves when they're afraid, and when the world is just really changing really fast around them. So no regrets. And I'm also really glad I'm not doing that anymore. And I am really happy to say that today I have the job of my dreams. I work for the League of Conservation Voters. I train candidates all over the country, environmental candidates who want to run for office. And I also get to help people who want to serve on boards and commissions. So we train people on things like Robert's Rules of Order and power mapping and understanding city budgets and how a bill, how an idea becomes basically a city ordinance or law. So that is really rewarding work. And just wanted to share so what's next is that I am in a training program with the Council for Great City Schools, and I'm getting certified to coach other school board directors. So um, I really want to help people become more effective school board leaders than I feel like I was able to be during my time on the board. Oakland, unfortunately, our academic achievement has not changed very much in the last, I don't know, 20 years. And I really would love to be in a role where I could help other board members feel like they had a bigger impact. What I wanted to just share in parting is a couple of my lessons learned over the course of my career. The first is that first campaign I worked on when I was 16 with Californians for Justice is the reason I have the job I have today. I met a man on that campaign by the name of Gary Delgado. He's an amazing social justice leader in Oakland, and he trained organizers, very young, people of color who wanted to go into the social justice field. And I met him when I was 16. And then when I was looking for a job in 2019, I happened to have met his wife, and she said, "Why don't you come over?" And I got reacquainted with Gary. And then when this amazing job opening came up at the League of Conservation Voters, he said that I should apply for it. And I did, and I got the job. And it has been just a really wonderful experience. League of Conservation Voters is a great place to work in case anyone's looking for work. And most of us work remotely, so you don't have to be in DC, although a lot of my colleagues are. So you just don't know where it's going to lead you when you get involved in something. So I highly, highly recommend get involved in your community, whatever that looks like for you. If you're into the arts, go apply for a board or commission in the arts. If you're into youth stuff, apply for a board or commission doing that. Join an organizing campaign, because you just don't know where that could lead you in your career. When I lived in Oakland, I was on the Oakland Library Advisory Commission, and those relationships really helped me when I ran for school board. Like, a lot of those folks volunteered on my campaign. A lot of them gave money to my campaign. So yeah, you just don't know where it's going to lead to when you choose to get involved in something in your community. And the other thing I just want to say is ask for help. Like, people are flattered when you ask for help brainstorming about career opportunities, when you ask for an informational interview to learn about how they got their job, what they like about their job, and get coaching. I have been working with the same coach since about, I think, 2011. She's helped me through a lot of career transitions. And it's so helpful to have an outside perspective, somebody who can help you identify your self-limiting beliefs and help you brainstorm about people that you already know who might be able to help you with your next phase of your career. So that's what I wanted to share. Get involved. You don't know where it could go, and get help. People like to help other people. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Shanti, for reminding us that leadership and advocacy matter at every level. Now, from activism, we turn to resilience. How returning to CSU East Bay decades later became a story of courage, equity, and second chances. Please welcome our next pioneer. Doug Boney is Assistant Executive Director of the Costume Designers Guild, IATSE Local 8, 92. Active in labor and LGBTQIA plus advocacy, Doug also serves on the union's International Pride Committee and represents IATSE on the National Executive Board of Pride at Work. After leaving college over 20 years ago, Doug returned to CSU East Bay and graduated in 2022 with a degree in ethnic studies. Tonight, he shares his journey of resilience, reinvention, and the power of education as a lifelong tool. Please welcome Doug.
Hey everyone, thank you, Parker. My name is Doug Boney. I graduated East Bay in 2022. As Parker said, I returned to college. It's been about 20 years. I I grew up in Mississippi and went to college there. And I went to a private Christian university where I faced a lot of homophobia. And I stuck it out for a few years, but my senior year, I stopped going to class and ultimately failed out of school. And I left, as someone who loves learning, I left with a really bad taste in my mouth for college. Soon after this happened, I moved to Los Angeles and I fell into working in the film and television industry. And I did that for several years. And after about 10, 15 years in that, I started working for the union that covers people working in television and film, the IATSE. It was during this time that I also started my focus on looking and advocating at the intersection of labor unions, DEIA initiatives, and queer advocacy. Uh, I'd been thinking about going back to school. It was something that was just in the back of my head for, little whispers of maybe it's time, maybe it's time. And then in 2020, when COVID hit, I realized everything was happening online. And I thought, this is the time to do it. This is, this is my, um, this is the time. And so I started searching for online programs and was looking for things that I was interested in, from labor to art to advocacy work. And there was, in one of my searches, the ethnic studies program at East Bay popped up, and it was just like this aha moment. The description of the program like really aligned with me professionally and personally. It focused on labor, social justice, culture, art, and literature. So when I found this program, I reached out to admissions because to find out more about the program, and I got this really helpful person on the phone, and I gave them my story about what happened to me 20 years ago in school. And they were like, look, this is what you're going to do. And they gave me this roadmap. And because I needed to be in good standing at my last school to be able to apply. And so they gave me this roadmap about taking a class at community college. I signed up that day for a class, ended up like signing up for a second class. I was so excited and applied and got accepted into the ethnic studies program. And it was such an amazing experience. Loved the program. I took more classes than I needed to each semester, and I learned so much. And I can't say how much that the concepts and the foundations that I learned in the program, it has helped me immensely in my job as a labor union leader. I'm much more empathetic. I know questions now to ask. I look at the whole picture of what could be going on with members and when they're having issues at work. And though I've never yet to still physically step on campus, I still have this very strong connection to East Bay, and I'm such a huge and proud graduate. I also have to give a shout out to the robust and very important, now more than ever, Ethnic Studies Department. And just want to remind you, it is never too late to go back to school and learn. Thank you.
Doug, thank you for that powerful reminder that it's never too late to pursue your calling. Now we shift to a voice grounded in art, neuroscience, and ancestral wisdom, showing how healing, justice, and joy can go hand in hand. Our next pioneer speaker is Claudia Morales. Claudia Morales, a psychotherapist, social worker, and community advocate, is a queer femme of mixed ancestry rooted in Colombian diasporic traditions and indigenous wisdom, drawing on art, poetry, and neuroscience. Claudia integrates ancestral knowledge with liberation-centered practices to support LGBTQIA+ and immigrant communities. Tonight, she shares her commitment to justice, transformation, and joy, and how collective healing becomes an act of resistance. Please welcome Claudia.
Thank you so much, Parker, and thank you to all my peers from Cal State East Bay. I grew up in Newark back when, before the dot-com boom, when there was a lot of grass and horses, and felt really connected to the nature in that. My mother is an immigrant from Colombia, and my dad immigrated from Canada. And she always surrounded me with this beautiful art that you see here, and these figures that represent my ancestors. And so even though my upbringing was more, it wasn't really so much rooted in my ancestral traditions, those always helped me remember who I really was. And my mom actually went to Cal State Hayward when I was a child to show me that she can get a degree in Colombia, immigrate, and get a degree here. So she created all these beautiful ceramics and paintings. And so that's my grandmother, and that's me. This art always reminded me, first of all, of the feel of connecting to ancestor through action. And like Shanti, I eventually stumbled across interfaith community organizing, which was really fascinating because I got to learn some of the truths that were underlying all religions. I got to have teachers such as Heather McGee and John Powell, and that really opened my mind about a lot of the injustices in the US. And I also made very deep connections in the very neighborhood that I grew up and felt disconnected from, but through those relationships, it really deepened my connection. I was so fortunate to go to Cal State East Bay because I wanted to do something with a calling. I did want to do art, and I always process feelings through art. However, the leaders would always share very deep stories with me, traumatic stories. And while the political action has a lot of importance and a lot of value, I also found it that I didn't have the tools to really help people. I also had a 1 and a 3-year-old when I started my graduate program. And this is not something I recommend to anybody, but there were other moms there that were like really, really surviving even more than me, but it was quite a struggle. However, it did come at such a wonderful time because I got to deepen my parenting skills. In my social work program, I learned about stages of development and intergenerational healing, not only through the coursework, but through my peers and my colleagues in the class and the professors that came from all walks of life. I want to specifically shout out Terry Jones, Dr. Terry Jones, who founded our social work program, and he was a civil rights leader. So it was just such an honor to do this work and to automatically be practicing this liberation focused type of therapy, that I was able to integrate all of my passion for social justice, for art, for healing, and now having concrete tools to reprocess trauma. So after I graduated from Cal State East Bay with my master's in social work, I've moved to LA to be close to my partner's family, and have worked in all stages of life from early childhood to end of life. And now I have the honor and privilege of really integrating all my passions. I have my private practice, and this is where I provide virtual therapy. I take Kaiser Insurance, and I also work with organizations such as Catalyst, the LA Library Foundation, with the Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights, because we have to do a lot of healing concurrently, right, as we support our communities. So, yeah, so this is my story. I hope you also find ways to be in congruence with your values, with your education, with your community, because now then more than ever, we need to be honest with ourselves and with our communities in order to build who we need to be after this. And Norma Wong, I really recommend her reading. She's an Indigenous woman from Hawaii, and she says that see the type of things you need to build for the people 150 years from now, for the babies that have yet to be born, and live each day and each moment accordingly, with this strong commitment, this strong accountability. So I do believe that through our education and through this congruence and through mutual care, we're going to build something so much better than what we're living through right now. But Cal State East Bay was such a fundamental, really core way that I was able to propel myself from previously really struggling financially. In fact, when I started the program, we actually lived in a really horrible living situation with like rats and everything. Now, many years later, we have a little more autonomy, but most importantly, I am doing work that I really value, and I always get fed from, I always grow from. So thank you to all of you for having me here, and I look forward to hearing about your stories as well.
Thank you, Claudia, for grounding us in wisdom and joy as acts of transformation. To close tonight's program, we turn to a reinvention advocate who invites us to embrace failure as part of designing a life of our own making. Please welcome Terry Hanson Mead. Terry Hanson Mead is a consultant, instructor, angel investor, helicopter pilot, and award-winning author of Piloting Your Life. A proud double pioneer alumna, she now helps women over 40 break free of societal boxes and reinvent their lives with confidence and curiosity. Tonight, Terry shows how saying yes before you feel ready can open doors to opportunity, freedom, and transformation. Terry is currently traveling, so we will be sharing her video today to you all. Please welcome Terry.
Tonight, I want to convince you to make failure your second favorite F word. Bonsoir from France, where I'm spending 7 weeks traveling and creating content for Zeke and Terry Adventures, my latest endeavor, and this time with my husband Zeke. You're probably wondering, how did I get here? For that, we need to go back to 1978 when I was 8 years old at a Hayward Air Show, getting my first helicopter ride. My dad was a fixed-wing pilot and a CPA who flew a Cessna out of the Hayward Airport. Flying with him was one of the few times that us kids got alone time with him. During that helicopter ride, nose pressed against the window, I said to myself, one day I'm going to fly one of these. But I didn't tell anyone. Fast forward to high school when I worked in my dad's accounting firm at 16 doing tax returns and financial statements, not your typical high school job, and my first year of college at Fresno State, which was absolutely not for me, after which I transferred to Cal State Hayward. While getting my undergrad degree at Cal State Hayward, I said yes to everything: running projects as a member of the JCs, helping set up a candy and nut distribution company, handling AR and billing at a law firm, and being on the board of a local nonprofit. By graduation, I was 40-year-olds, and my degree simply checked a box. The real education for me was that even if I didn't know what I was doing, that I could figure anything out. A few years after graduation, I started dating my husband again for the third time in 12 years. He was working on his MBA at Cal State Hayward while working full-time, and I thought, well, if I want to see him, I may as well do it too. Jay Taunt, the dean of the business school, was a family friend, and he helped guide me into the MBA program, and within a month, I was in class. For the next 2 years, I worked full-time as an accountant, taking classes at night and studying on the weekends, all the while working toward an MBA in new ventures and small business management, a program modeled after a Stanford program, but more convenient and definitely more affordable. I absolutely loved it. I loved taking what I learned in class and applying it to my business clients and then bringing that back to the classroom. I am definitely an applied learner. While in the program, we were also planning our wedding, like we had so much extra time in our schedule. And after a fight over gift registries on our way to an incredibly difficult quantitative methods midterm, Zeke dropped out and I kept going, completing the program the following year. Then came the hard part, leaving my dad's accounting firm. He expected me to take it over, and I could not stomach another quarter after quarter, tax season after tax season, year after year. To this day, he has not forgiven me. But that choice, painful as it was, gave me my life back. I landed at NorCal Waste Systems as a financial analyst doing a JD Edwards system implementation. I did not know what I'd signed up for, but I figured I'd learn or I'd leave. And turns out I accidentally found my career that would span the next 25 years in IT project management and IT strategy, eventually in life sciences. But then 6 years, 2 biotech companies, and 1 acquisition, and 2 layoffs later, I decided to take destiny into my own hands, and I launched my consulting company, Solutions to Projects, where I focused on IT strategy and IT compliance. As I was deciding what to do, I remember a very powerful question that my executive coach had asked me. She said, "When have you ever failed to figure it out?" And the answer was never. Not because I never stumbled, but because I really don't see failure as not succeeding. Failure to me is simply a failure to learn. But let's get back to the helicopter. At 37, my husband gave me a discovery flight at San Carlos Airport, hoping I'd shut up about flying helicopters, because every time we drove past, I would say, one day I'm going to fly one of those things. After the discovery flight, I said to him and to myself, if I don't do it now, I never will. Our oldest was 6, our youngest was 3. I was running a thriving consulting business, and let me tell you, learning to fly was one of the hardest things I've ever done. I had no idea what I was signing up for. I fired my first flight instructor. I doubted myself constantly, and much of the mechanics and physics of flight still baffle me. But still, I earned my private rating at 38 and my commercial rating at 45. Now, for perspective, there are only about 5,000 women helicopter pilots in the world, and only a fraction of them are commercially rated. I am so proud to be a part of this elite group, and I still get nervous before I fly. But you know what? I fly anyway, because getting above it all helps me get above it all. Plus, it's really fucking cool. A few years later, a pilot buddy suggested angel investing, so I joined Sandhill Angels. I figured I'd learn as I went along, and I set aside $55,000 to invest over 2 years as my real-life PhD. I very quickly learned it was the total bro show, especially with the podcast, and I decided that some diversity was called for, and I launched my podcast, Piloting Your Life, to showcase diverse people with unusual paths to show what is possible for those who need to see it to be it. Because I needed to promote the podcast, I started a weekly newsletter called the PYL In-Flight Entertainment, and I started blogging in earnest. Did I know what I was doing or have all the information before I started? Nope. But I knew these were the right steps, and I trusted the process. Another gem from my executive coach. That led to 2 trips to Necker Island to spend time with successful change makers from around the world and to play tennis with Sir Richard Branson. During that first trip, someone showed me how to write a book. And then the following summer, another friend said, if you want to get paid to speak, you need to write a book. The following December, I hired my writing coach and editor, Katie, and 9 months later, my book baby was born. In January of 2020, I launched a YouTube channel to help midlife women see opportunity, not crisis, in midlife. Was it a booming success? Well, it depends on how you define success. To me, if I can help one woman feel less isolated and alone in her experience, I have succeeded. A year later, my husband and I called it quits. Our relationship had been circling the drain for about a decade, but neither of us were ready at the same time. Once we did, though, we closed the door on what was, we worked on ourselves with therapy, focused on what we wanted individually, and then accidentally rebooted our relationship. Besides our extensive history and our kids, we don't have a lot of common interests. But what we do share is our passion for travel, which brings me back around to why I'm in France. In January 2024, at a very weak moment, my husband agreed to launch Zeke and Terry Adventures to inspire people over the age of 50 to get out, get uncomfortable, and go travel. But this is our new business. It's not a hobby, despite what our accountant might think. Yesterday in Nancy, after a day exploring Art Nouveau, we were having a glass of champagne on Place Stanislas, this gorgeous 18th century square, when a pack of teenage boys walked up and asked, "Are you YouTubers?" I think they saw the GoPro that was on our table. Hesitantly, we said yes, and one handed me their phone and asked me to find our channel and hit subscribe. We did tell them that they were not our target audience, but told them to tell their parents about us. After they left, we could not stop laughing. We are 55. Are we making money? Not yet. Are we doing something together that mostly works? Yes. Are we learning something new every day? Absolutely. Mostly what doesn't work is evidenced by all the pasta we've thrown at the wall, but together we're building something that we are proud of most of the time. And here's what all these crazy chapters have in common. Confidence follows action, not the other way around. I rarely had perfect information, but I did have momentum. So I will leave you with 3 takeaways. 1, act first, confidence follows. Waiting to feel ready is how dreams expire quietly and how your life will pass you by. Waiting for the perfect opportunity means you will be waiting forever. Do not live a contingent life. 2, chase the spark, not the plan. Be an opportunist. Treat your career and your life like a series of experiments, not a single bet where there's only one opportunity to win or succeed. And number 3, build the life that fits, not the life that impresses. If a plan no longer fits you, leave with love and build the next thing. Take your learnings and apply it to the next opportunity. If the opportunity isn't there, take a step, then another step until the opportunity presents itself. And remember that 8-year-old at the Hayward Air Show? She didn't know about MBAs, layoffs, angel investing, books, or rebooted marriages. She just knew she wanted to fly, and she still does. Decades later, that simple yes was just one in a series of yeses that have led to a life that is distinctly mine, the one that I design and live with every decision that I make. So here are my 2 asks tonight. For you, this week, say yes to something you are not fully ready for, something that scares you a little or a lot. Make failure your second favorite F word, and you will find freedom to design and live a life of your own creation. For me, I ask that you go find Zeke and Terry Adventures on YouTube. Watch and like one of our latest videos, and then subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to hit that notification button so you can get notified when we release new videos. And if you know, you know. Tonight, I want to convince you to make
Thank you, Terry, and thank you to all our speakers tonight, Unmesh, Shanti, Doug, Claudia, and Terry, for sharing such powerful stories. Each of you reminded us that being a pioneer is about persistence, purpose, joy, and reinvention, and that what starts at Cal State East Bay truly reaches beyond the Bay. And thank you to everyone who tuned in. We're so glad you're a part of this community of over 150,000 alumni making an impact locally and globally. I also want to invite you to keep the momentum going by joining us at the upcoming alumni events, One highlight I'm especially excited about is our Cal State East Bay night with Bay FC on October 17th. It's a chance to come together, cheer on the Bay Area's new women's professional soccer team, and show our Pioneer pride in the stands. You can grab on our alumni website event page or the link in the chat now. We'll also be rolling out more programs and gatherings throughout the year, so stay connected with us and keep sharing your pioneer spirit. On behalf of the Alumni Association, thank you again for joining us tonight and have a wonderful evening.